we're good to go.
This meeting will come to order. This is a planning session of the City of Bloomington Transportation Commission. Is there someone here to call the roll,
I can call the roll.
if you would?
All right. Oops, 1 second. All right. Kopic?
Here.
Connell?
Here.
Binder?
Present.
Bolin?
Here.
Drummy?
Here.
And Stossberg.
Here.
So we have a quorum. The sole item on today's agenda is discussion of the Kinzer-Madison-Rogers corridor study presented by the city and Tool Design. Who will be presenting?
So Tool Design will be presenting. I will give a short overview before I hand it off to...
Could you identify yourself first?
Yes, I am Hank Duncan, State Streets Program Manager for the City of Bloomington. I brought some friends with me today from Tool Design. We are kicking off workshop week for the Rogers, Madison, and Kinzer corridor study. Just so everyone knows, listening and here, we have a number of public outreach events throughout the week. Some scheduled, some unscheduled. The scheduled events that you all should know about are: one, there is a public workshop Wednesday from 5:30 to 7:30 at Switchyard Park. That will be a more expansive version of what we're about to do, where we take out roll plots and we look at the map and all sections of the corridor and figure out what's working, what's not working, what you all would like to see.
And just to be clear, this meeting functions as, or this body is functioning as the steering committee for this project. Can you explain briefly the significance of a steering committee?
Correct. So as the city, this is a city project, as the city moves along in the study, we want to make sure that whatever decisions are made are representative of the city. And so this Transportation Commission, which also serves as the steering committee for the study, is a representation of the different transportation interests around the community. And so as we progress in the study, we want to hear from you all how we're doing. We want you to push us in directions that we might not push ourselves in. We want your feedback and questions as we move forward. So once this study reaches a point to reach formal Transportation Commission review, you as the steering committee and us as city staff both feel comfortable in where we landed on this project.
Very good. With that, if you can begin the presentation.
Sure. I will talk about one more event before we begin the
Sure.
presentation. We also have stroll and discuss events. Those are essentially strolls along the corridor to provide on-site feedback about the existing conditions. What are you feeling? What are you seeing? How can those be changed if needed? One of those is tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning at 10:30 in the morning. We will be meeting outside of the mill, which is just beyond City Hall, just north of City Hall. We will be traveling the more downtown stretch of the corridor from 11th to 3rd Street. And then Wednesday at 1:30 p.m., we will be meeting at the corner of 17th and Kinzer by the Marathon gas station, and we will be strolling along the northern section of the corridor on Kinzer Pike up to the bypass and back. And as you can see on the screen, there are a number of pop-up events. Those are unscheduled events to the public, so we can attract more than just the folks who want to come to public meetings, the folks who have the time to participate in strolls. Those are the street users along the corridor that a lot of the times aren't able to provide feedback in these studies. We want to make sure that they are able to provide feedback.
Okay.
So with that said, I will turn it over to Drew Parker, who is the Tool Design Project Manager, who will present us through this meeting.
Hey everybody, nice to see you. My name is Drew Parker. I'm a senior planner with Tool Design. I'm here from Ann Arbor, and I'm the consultant project manager for this study. I'm also here joined by a bunch of my colleagues, so Paul Lippins over here, Kishana over here, Joe, and Waleed. So we're all going to be here all week doing a lot of different things, working with the city to come up with concept ideas. But yeah, like Hank said, we really want to hear from you, and we want to hear from members of the public what their concerns are, and then we'll take that and directly filter it into what we look at for actual designs for the corridor. So I've just pulled that up to help Hank kind of talk through some of those events. That'd be helpful to see that visually. The majority of what we wanted to do today was to actually just look at these roll plots and get your feedback on issues that you've experienced in the corridor, or things you've heard from folks, to kind of understand more about existing conditions. I think we talked a little bit about this last time at Transportation Commission, but we only kind of briefly got into it when we were giving an existing conditions presentation. So we brought these aerial roll plots of the whole project extent, so we could kind of look at it and talk about it, like all the way from the north end bypass down to Country Club. And
Is a roll plot just a roll of paper?
Mhm.
Or is it some fancier term?
Yeah, sorry, a roll plot is a roll, anything, like we think of it as like a narrow, long print plot. Usually it has an aerial on it.
It's a plot map you have to roll up.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
It's yep. Usually has aerial imagery of a city or street, and like this one has parcel boundaries as well, so you can see where houses are, different parts of the city, where City Hall is, the B line. So it helps us see context, and yeah, we can use it as a conversation piece to talk about issues at specific locations. So that's the main activity that we wanted to have for the meeting tonight. Just as a reminder, this is our overall project schedule. So there's the things in red are the things that the project team is doing. That's the city and the consultant team. So we've done data collection, we've done corridor analysis, we've created the vision and goals. We talked about that with you all last time. We're now in workshop week, which is where we collect even more feedback, existing conditions, to understand everything we need to know to move to alternatives development. And then ultimately we'll move to concept design and a final corridor study that makes a recommendation.
It might not hurt to remind us what vision and goals we agreed to. Just briefly.
At a high level, and Hank, feel free to jump in if you want to, but at a high level, the vision, because this is a Safe Streets for All project, the vision is 0 fatal and serious injury crashes on the corridor. And then the goal is break down from there further. I do have some design objectives in this presentation I can show for some more specificity.
Thank you.
Welcome. So this is our second Transportation Commission meeting. We'll have a couple more tentatively looking at May or July for those next ones.
How many total in this process?
4 is, I believe.
4 is what we're planning on.
Unless an addition.
That'll be typical for any kind of corridor study, is 4.
I don't want to say typical for a corridor study because all corridor studies are a little bit different, but in terms of where we are going on this one, we feel that 4 is enough.
Okay, thank you.
Concurrent with workshop week, there's also an online survey that's open on the website, so people can provide their feedback on the corridor digitally. But we also want to go to people where they're at and get ideas from people in person, so that's why we're here. And it's just helpful to all be together and really understand intensely for a week what's going on this street. Earlier today, Hank took us on a long walk of the corridor. A great, no, it was a great long walk. I mean, he took us here from City Hall down to Patterson, and then we walked all the way up to 17th, right? And then on both sides of the street. So we got to see a pretty big stretch of the corridor, which is nice. So it's to help us understand a little bit better what's going on the street today. And then just lastly, after workshop week, there will be website updates for the public. So there's not going to be like another big outreach event, but there will be updates about what's going on, what we're finding, and what the proposed concepts are. Okay, so I had this up when Hank was talking just to give you a sense. Like he was saying, the 3 blue things are the 2 Transportation Commissions stroll and discuss on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then I think Hank also mentioned there's a public workshop, a big open house that anybody from the public is invited to from 5:30 to 7:30 on Wednesday at Switchyard Park. I also wanted to mention we have some internal city design workshops where we get to sit down with city staff and work with them on concepts and hear what they've been hearing over the years about this corridor and issues that they'd like to solve. So we're really here to listen this week. All right. So what we'd like to do, and we talked about this a little bit last week, this is actually an idea of one of the commissioners, although I believe she's not here today, but she asked if we could weigh the different design objectives. So we have 8 design objectives. There's 4 on this slide, there'll be 4 on the next slide. And hopefully it works on Hank's computer. If it doesn't, I'll pull it up on my computer. We have a Mentimeter, which is an online survey. We'll ask you to weigh these different design objectives from lower priority to higher priority. So if you have a phone or computer with you, that'll be helpful at that point. It's kind of just a straw poll to get a sense for which you think are the most important design objectives. So as a reminder, we have 8 design objectives. The first, reflect community values and corridor identity. And you can read on the screen. There's a little bit more detail. Each one has kind of a more detailed explanation. But I'll just read the headers for starters. Advance safety through proven street design. Create a context-sensitive street that calms traffic. And build a continuous multimodal corridor for all users. So that's the first 4. We also want to ensure universal accessibility and comfort, support redevelopment and local economic vitality. We know there's redevelopment happening on the corridor, so we want to make sure that the street design is supporting that. Strengthen connections to key destinations in the citywide network, so understand how the street works overall in the citywide network. And then support safe routes to school. There's a number of schools along the corridor right within a few blocks of the corridor, so we know that there are lots of students who are walking and biking to school. So those are the 8 design objectives, and really the way we think of design objectives is that any concepts that we come up with need to meet these objectives. And so that's like an evaluation criteria by which we decide whether or not the designs we're creating are successful. So what I would like to do is a Mentimeter activity that have you weigh these. I think it might not work on Hank's computer, so I'm gonna have to pull it up on my computer. So let me do that real quick. I'll pull up these again if you want to read through those for a second while I pull it up. Okay, sorry for the delay there. Okay, so if you have a phone with you or a computer, if you go to menti.com, menti.com, once you go to that website, it's going to ask you for a code, and there's a code at the top of the screen, which is 91917664. And what you'll see is we have all 8 of those design objectives loaded in there, and you can rank the priority from lower to higher priority from a scale of 1 to 10. And once you've ranked all 8, then you can submit. And we'll see those pop up live on the screen once you submit. Does anyone have any questions about how to get onto Mentimeter?
Just need that code.
The code is 91917664. Okay, looks like one person's filled it out. Come in now. It's changed priorities a little bit. I'm still seeing safety, so number 2 and number 8, advanced safety through proven street design, support safe routes to school are the highest ranking so far. followed by number 4, build a continuous multimodal corridor for all users. Another one came in, maybe barely changed it, but looks very similar. We just have, looks like, so 7 people logged in, but 2 still remain to go. Does anybody feel like, yes, I totally agree with this, or someone feel like on one of these, I totally disagree with how it was weighted, or?
Anybody from the commission want to weigh in?
I'll just say that I see a lot of these as, complementary. The Venn diagram in my mind is, a lot of overlap between several of these. Safe routes to school, universal accessibility, traffic calming, safety. I mean, those are all, to me, rolled into the same general idea. So I ranked both. I'll just transparently say I ranked most of these fairly highly. I suspect that number 1's somewhat low scoring result is maybe a reflection of people disagreeing about what community values or corridor identity actually means. So that's just my initial thoughts.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I would just dovetail on the community values and corridor identity. What exactly does that mean? I'm being serious.
Yeah, I think,
Sounds good.
yeah, I can pull up exactly what we said, or I don't know if you want to pull it up on the PowerPoint.
Sure.
But I understand, yeah, it's a little bit ambiguous. I think what we were thinking is it's more like the design of the street and streetscaping and how it looks. What was it on? It's
Yeah,
so the
yeah,
first
yeah.
one. So, okay, sorry. So this one is actually more, there's a couple different things there. But informed by community input and lived experience, responding to local concerns, reinforcing neighborhood character, and advancing a shared vision for the corridor's future. So it's more about, does the street meet the needs of people who live near or along the street, or more broadly in the community, what they want for the street. So I guess that one is actually more about process in some ways than outcomes.
Thank you.
I know that the high school is to the north. Someone remind us what other schools that would use this corridor for safe routes to school?
Sure.
North, Fairview, lots of schools.
So you have, just going from north to south here, you have Bloomington North High School, like you mentioned. You have Tri-North Middle School off of 17th and Monroe Street, so about less than a half mile west of the corridor.
Yeah.
You have Fairview Elementary on the corridor at Rogers and 7th, Rogers and 8th. You have the Project School, which is off
Just one block
of
off.
Walnut and Smith. And then further south, you have Monroe County Adult Education, which is where Broadview Elementary used to be. On the southern end of the corridor near, I forget the exact street, but I think Coolidge maybe is what it is, or Graham.
Right.
About a quarter mile west of the corridor. Those are the main ones I can think of.
And Summit is not. It's like up the hill from
And some is in the area too.
in the area. Okay, there's really a lot.
Bachelor Middle School.
I might have, ranked it.
It's
I
a
ranked
long
it high,
corridor.
but I might
It's
have
a
ranked
long
it even
corridor.
higher if that was a full inventory.
It begs the question of, to what extent is a corridor so long really unified? I mean, it's very different functions in different places. So
Yeah.
it's, the roll-up maps here aren't even really that much of the corridor that we're talking about, right?
So the maps, I believe, are the full corridor.
Yeah, they're the whole corridor from Country Club to Bypass. So I
okay.
think down here you have Country Club up to, I can't
Okay.
quite see from here, but
Mm.
maybe 8.
Nevertheless, you know, it's very different functions in different places.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Did we just get these? Is this the first time we're seeing these design objectives that you've created?
They were presented at the previous meeting.
Okay. Because as others have said, they overlap. And it's hard to really vote on them when they're complicated ideas. I mean, I voted 5 for everything because I didn't have really time to process it, so my vote wasn't very useful. But I hope that you don't put too much stock into this initial vote.
No, this is more of a, I think, kind of a straw poll to know right now in the room what people are thinking.
Are you planning to edit the objectives?
We can, yeah. We asked for feedback at the previous meeting if anybody wanted to change anything about the vision statement, the goals, or the design objectives.
Okay.
So we're still taking feedback.
Can I offer a little context?
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's good to see that these are kind of all prioritized to some extent and that there is overlap. The purpose for design objectives in a study like this is that we can look back, as Drew said, through a lens and say, are all of these being met? So we're not creating design objectives with the idea that we're going to do 3 of these, but not the other 5. We want to achieve all of these through a corridor design. So I think what we're doing here, even in this exercise, is validating that these are all important. And to a certain extent, looking, is there a need to maybe refine some language a bit, but also is there anything that we're missing? So the feedback that we get from you on kind of how your impressions are, whether these are achieving the things that you want to see done on the corridor, that's where we would take it back and revise it. But really what we want to make sure is that we're able to do all of these things, and then when we create a series of recommendations for the corridor, that all of these objectives will be met through the design. Is that helpful?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for now that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Any other feedback or thoughts on design objectives at this time?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, the last thing we wanted to do, the third thing we wanted to do is to get up and look at the roll plots in the corridor and take any specific location feedback, knowing that, you all can come to any of the events whenever you like, but we figured since we have the time, we could take a look at it, and if people have specific thoughts or feedback, we could just take notes on it right now.
Do you want to guide us through,
Yeah, we can start. Does anyone have a preference if we start on the southern end of the corridor or the northern end?
Do you have it on where you put it up on the screen, or?
Hi.
We can put a map up there, yeah. I think
that would be useful, that would be helpful.
Yeah. You want to put maybe or do you want me to pull up the?
If you can just put Google Maps up.
Yeah, Street View.
Just look at Street View.
Yeah.
We also have, I can pull up the presentation from the last meeting, which had maps, if that's helpful.
Yeah, go for it.
Cool.
And if we need to, Google Maps will be ready.
I'm asking a question not because I have any grand plans, but just a curiosity question. What do you think? Is at this point of the process is basically anything on the table optional? I mean, if it's determined that we're going to put an interstate highway through this corridor, that could be. I mean, I would maybe struggle with the vision, the neighborhood. It'd be safe. It might be safer, but no. I mean, is it like right now we're just talking about anything that's possible?
Right now, we were talking about anything that's possible.
Okay.
Once we get down to it, once we hear the feedback from not just this commission, but from the public and the stakeholders, then we can begin narrowing down and focusing in on what are the priorities, what aligns best with the vision, the goals, the objectives. But right now, we are not looking at constraints. We are looking at what you are experiencing on the corridor, what you would like to see long-term in the corridor, and how we can help.
Okay.
So here's a map up on screen too, if that's more helpful, just to show the extents and kind of the major intersections. So the project's extents are from Country Club Drive up to the bypass. And you can see some of the more major streets labeled there.
I'll just say something because nobody else is saying anything. I really hope that, you know, one of the outcomes of this is that, you know, not just Rogers as a corridor is considered, but that east-west crossings of Rogers improve across the board, because I find it difficult to cross Rogers in a lot of places. And that doesn't have much to do with, you know, traveling on Rogers itself, but it has to do with, you know, I mean, obviously the design of Rogers, you know, the street factors into that. But I could point to any number of, you know, places where there are either not crosswalks or poor visibility or, you know, high speeds, high traffic speeds. Things like that I really hope are improved by this project. I mean, if you want, I'm happy to circle probably half a dozen of them on these roll plots.
And Eobon, you mentioned last meeting specifically at that Howe and Rogers cross. You mentioned that Howe and Rogers intersection.
Yeah, I live on Howe, and so I cross there, you know, at least once or twice per day.
Mhm.
And I mean, if you want, I can point that out.
Yes.
Over here.
I think anybody
This
feel
is
free to get
a
up.
fairly, you know, problematic, especially because one thing you don't see on roll plots is elevation,
Mhm.
right? If you're not familiar with the topography of this neighborhood, you know, could you look at this and say that you know where the hills are? I don't think you could. So that's maybe another thing I would encourage the tool team to look at is, you know, in cases where there's a lot of uphill, downhill, that kind of thing. Now, how to deal with that and the poor visibility sometimes that's introduced by that. So.
Going off of that for a second, when we were on our walk today, we were talking about how there's an upcoming resurfacing project. So the city was awarded a community crossings grant to resurface a couple of areas of the city. A couple of areas that were chosen were on Rogers Street along this corridor area. And this is an imminent project. And so right now, a question that we have for you all in the public that we'll be talking about this week is, within this repaving project, it's not just repaving. It can also be crosswalk improvements. It can also be striped bike lanes, things like that. And so in that area that you're talking about, specifically between 2nd and 3rd Street, where right now you have 2 travel lanes and on-street parking that's not highly utilized, would we rather promote safer east-west crossings across the corridor or promote safer bike facilities along the corridor? Which would probably be striped bike lanes, or for across the corridor, pedestrian refuge islands, curb extensions, etc.
Is that an either or choice?
I don't know why that's mutually exclusive.
So for short term, it is an either or choice with the street width that we have. With the long term vision of the study, then we can start looking at a yes and. But if we're talking about a repaving project in 2026, then we do not. This repaving project is more maintenance than street widening and construction.
Are you asking us to meaningfully weigh in on this idea?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Hank, I feel like the scope of this discussion is the long-term future of this corridor.
Yes.
You know, and I appreciate that obviously there's a lot of moving parts to this, and there's a repaving project scheduled for a few blocks of it this summer. But in my mind, that is almost a completely separate discussion from this. I mean, I don't know. In my mind, paint on the street is not really the kind of outcome I would expect from a long-term,
Of course.
expensive project. So, yeah, I mean, if the city wants to paint some lines on the ground, that's fine, but.
No, you.
Yeah, I mean, as a cyclist, I find ways to avoid riding on Rogers, but I do cross it at a number of locations.
Mm-hmm.
We heard it from a member
Yeah,
of the public,
I was gonna say, yeah.
Tim Clower,
Seventh and Rogers was his
who,
concern.
Sixth and Rogers, I think, is what he specified. Seventh has a crosswalk, I think, because it's right in front of
Seventh is an
Fairview.
always stop sign.
And it's an always stop, so it's pretty straightforward across there. But Sixth Street, that's there's no east or north-south traffic control, nor is there a crosswalk. So that's another one that I would circle. It's a little far away for me to circle, I think, but
Gotcha.
maybe Hank can do it. So there's a lot of crossings like that, right? That are between intersections that have either always stop control or traffic signalization or something that people still want to cross there, especially if it's a less busy street. That's the irony. Is the less busy streets are like Howe or Sixth. They're very pleasant to walk or bike on because they're low traffic, but they also don't get their own safe crossings of Rogers. So it's the busier streets like Second or 7th Street that have more easy ways to cross, but then there's generally fewer people walking and cycling on those streets.
There's got to be a term for that idea that it was first put to me many years ago when I was in college. They were talking about building a new student union, and vice president of facilities said something like, if you give the students something nice, they'll treat it nice. If you give them a bus station, they'll treat it like a bus station. In the same way, if we give people crossings, you're going to see more traffic there, and then you can see if there's demand.
Sure.
If it's not there, then how would you know? I'm always reading ignorant social media posters saying, why are we putting so much stuff up for bikes? The answer is, if you don't put it up for bikes, you're never going to see bicyclists. So it has to be comfortable enough for them to show. So I'm not sure what we're like, are we trying to make intersections that are more comfortable for pedestrians and bicyclists, or are we trying to identify those intersections that we think are already safe and that maybe we want to emulate?
I would say to that's both. That is both. Where you absolutely see, look at the city of Bloomington's transportation plan, where there are prescribed neighborhood greenways. Those are the low stress, low volume streets that you're talking about. But many of the greenways across this corridor, the city has not actually done anything infrastructure-wise to improve it for pedestrians or cyclists. So those are the intersections you're talking about where maybe we don't see that high volume of bike ped traffic across it because right now it's not that safe. Whereas at, say, 3rd Street or Rockport or 17th, one of the major signalized intersections, we know we are going to see a number of users regardless of transportation mode, and we can also improve it for them.
I have a personal focus on intersections that are truly multimodal. Like, I don't worry about Rogers and Howe, for example, because it's already relatively safe, although there are issues there. I'm more concerned about an intersection like where the 7 line crosses Walnut and College. I want that high visibility of pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure so that motor vehicle users get accustomed to it.
Do you have any examples like that along the corridor?
On Rogers? I think that 17th is just a very important intersection to get right. It's very busy, it's very high traffic. It's got the new side paths that were a big help, and it has the real potential to be an example throughout the city of what good design should be. 17th and Madison, isn't it? Can we rename all the streets to one, please? I just don't know why.
So,
what's that?
I said, hey,
Let's
any-
call it all
it is.
Rogerson.
So Steve, 17th and Madison is a great example. That's an intersection that was redone in the last handful of years, in the last 3 years. Is there something about that intersection that isn't right now, or something that we could do better in the long term?
I guess maybe I was thinking that, I don't recall what bicycle infrastructure specifically at that intersection.
Right now, you have that side path you're mentioning on the north side of the intersection on 17th crossing. And then for Madison and Kinzer, you have either a striped bike lane for the southbound traffic at Kinzer or Sharrows for the rest. It's nothing low stress.
I'm not a fan of Sharrows at that intersection.
Mhm.
Like, it's a pretty high-speed intersection relative to other ones. People are about to go people in cars are about to go higher speed in at least 3 directions there. Or if they're not already going at a much higher speed than is comfortable for bicyclists.
Yeah.
So, short of more hardened infrastructure for bicycles, I still think that that's important, that we see that we're giving something like fairer, more explicit right-of-way to non-cars.
Sure.
So, but that's just one. I'll think about it. I'm not sure if there's another intersection that's as big as that. Country Club, maybe. I don't know.
Here's another one that comes to mind for me, which is, this one is particularly crazy to me. When the city was designing Switchyard Park, which is, this, there was originally a crossing, sorry Steve,
No, I'm gonna put one
displace you here. There was a crossing depicted on all of the designs right here between the side path on Rogers and this path leading to the entrance of Switchyard Park. It was in the plan for the park and it never got built. I'm just gonna put a giant 3 question marks there because why wasn't it ever built? There's a side path on one side, there's a path leading to the park on the other. It's a perfectly logical spot for a crossing, and there's no crossing there. There should be a crossing there. There should also be a crossing where there's, I think, going to be a future path just to the south of the electrical substation. I believe there's going to be a electrical, corridor, like a high voltage corridor path there, east-west.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly the
And
design details of that.
There
but-
will be a raised crosswalk at that new intersection.
Mhm. Well, there should also be one at the end of the path,
Sure.
I think, because first of all, there was supposed to be one to begin with, and it would also be silly not to put one there.
I'll jump in with,
Yeah.
Kinzer in the bypass. I know that the state controls the bypass,
We
but
can talk about it.
we also know it is one of our highest crash intersections. I have a parent of high school students there, and I'm surprised that every time I go through the intersection on foot, or it feels like it, there's someone else crossing the road there, even though it's an unpleasant crossing. I think there's just there's a grocery store on one side and there's housing on the other, and people are walking across that, despite it, not only is it like numerically dangerous, it feels uncomfortable to cross it. We know that the state has a plan to move the pedestrian overpass, I think by 2029.
Yep.
I think we have an opportunity to have a strong vision.
Move it or remove it?
It doesn't meet some standard they have because it's arched, but it's really a bridge to nowhere now, so there's an opportunity to ask for it to be relocated to somewhere nearby that would be more useful. I think it'd be more useful to have it at the Kinzer and the bypass. With the accessibility ramps, it would sort of go from Kroger's on one side to the gas station on the other. But there's an opportunity here.
I would second that. I think that's, just seeing pedestrians waiting across is frightening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look right, and you can
Yeah,
tell in their eye,
every
like-
time I'm like, it's,
Having used it as a walker, you can have a truck blocking your view, one of these super big trucks, and there's a car coming in fast wanting to turn, and they can't see you. So it's kind of harrowing. I want to mention a theme which has been brought up about neighborhood greenways or low traffic streets crossing busy roads.
Mhm.
As the Transportation Commission, we've someone has already been here to speak about being hit at the Covenanter Greenway crossing College Mall, and we have an
Mhm.
upcoming item about someone hit at Longview crossing Smith.
Yep.
And I think it's an opportunity for the city to have standards for what's our level of service or quality that we provide when we have what we are telling people to use as a facility, low traffic
Mhm.
street, a greenway, but it's crossing a busy road. How do we continue that level of service of comfort from the greenway as they continue across these dangerous crossings? Because those are places where people are coming because they've been sent to the hospital for using the facilities that we told them to use. I mean, obviously the drivers who blew through stop signs and were at fault, but
But still, yeah.
but in terms of Vision Zero, right, we want to do what we need to do to, even when in the face of people not behaving well, we want to still have those sorts of things.
Okay, so we're trying to identify places that need attention.
Yes.
Any, y'all got some thoughts?
More zoom out a little bit question. Is there a corridor in the city that we, or even if it's a small section where we think we've nailed it? Like this is the model, or anywhere that any other intersections that we might generally be familiar with?
That's a really good question.
That is a great question. That we've absolutely nailed it. I don't know.
I think I have an answer,
I
but I
honestly
didn't
don't
From a
know.
planning perspective, I mean, we certainly have our
I
thoughts.
honestly
but-
don't know. The one that I think of first, but I can also think of a couple of flaws about it, is the roundabout at High Street, Rogers, and Winslow, just north of the Goat Farm Park, where you have a multi-use trail on the east side of High, a multi-use trail on the north side of Rogers, and it leads into this wonderful park. It's right by Child's Elementary School. That said, it's not perfect. You have high-speed traffic coming down from the hill. You don't have raised crosswalks there. You have disconnected multi-use paths going west up the hill on Winslow towards Sherwood Oaks area. So it's not perfect. That's the first one that comes to mind. I'll try to think of others and let you know.
It's a good example though. I mean, it is better than it used to be.
Yes.
And if for some reason the way it's designed does make you pay more attention to the pedestrians and see them slow down.
Anything, Rick?
Having looked at a lot of crash data, the places where we have near zero crashes are where you completely separate cars from pedestrians, like the middle of campus where there's not car traffic, the crashes drop to zero. And Beeline is overall works great, but it's a separate facility.
Mhm.
So.
But is that necessarily good if it creates a whole lot more traffic on the outskirts by cutting off all the streets in the
Yeah.
middle of the campus?
I think it speaks to like the idea of when you bring it back to a road context, the protective facilities,
Right.
the physical barriers.
So I wanted to, do you have a?
Oh, I have lots more to say, but go ahead.
Well,
Steve.
I want to talk about roundabouts for a second since they came up. I mean, in 2011, the city council hijacked the budget over the proposal to build 3 roundabouts, Sarah and Rogers, 17th and Arlington, and Tappan Rockport. The engineer at the time was a drainage engineer, and he was highway happy, and all the roundabouts had double lanes, and they were meant to move cars, nothing but.
Yep.
Sarah and Rogers got built, and it got built as a double lane roundabout,
Yep.
but since then, you all have reduced it to 1 lane and it's working better. 17th and Arlington to me is another intersection that I think has succeeded beyond my expectations. Like as a roundabout, as an intersection, it's done quite well. And of course, we never built Tappan Rockport because of the sightlines.
Mhm.
But so I wanted to throw out 17 to Arlington as something that seems to get things right, at least for a roundabout.
Sure.
But it also makes me think about the intersection of Rogers and Patterson. So ever since the RCA building came down, they stopped building stuff there. I mean, Patterson was built as a truck highway, okay? And this intersection has to me always seemed a bit too big.
Blown out.
Now, this is right near also where the bus garage is, but I also know there's a neighborhood right here. City council member lives a few houses up from here.
Sure.
And it's remarkable the difference in feeling of this block to this intersection right here. You got thoughts?
Yeah, and I was, I was just thinking, if you travel that corridor, it's like you come in and out of different, I don't know, vibe's the right word, but I mean, it's like this section has a feel, and then okay, go about 3 or 4 more blocks, it's going completely different, feels like completely different, then you're back into, so there's no continuity to, it just seems like you're in and out of different, and maybe that makes sense why it has 20 different names as you progress across. I don't know if that's part of, as, but is there, why is that? Why isn't there consistency in the naming of streets, particularly in a corridor that is continuous in a north-south direction?
So and you all might be able to help me out with this, but I believe at least one item. So Rogers at 11th Street, you have the bridge over the railroad that goes over to Madison. There used to be an old rickety wooden bridge that went straight over to Rogers, and then they built the new bridge, I don't know, call it 30 years ago. So you do have a Rogers Street north of the bridge. It is just not the connected Rogers Street that we know. So it moved over a block to Madison. So that's why the name changes there. And then this is the one where I'm speculating here, but I believe Kinzer Pike used to be fully in the county.
Right.
And so I'm assuming that at 17th Street, that was the city limits border, and so Kinzer Pike was a county road, got annexed, now it's a city road, still called Kinzer Pike.
I don't know if we can change it or not, but I want to get back to this intersection. I think this intersection, and frankly its fellow intersection at Walnut, it's a little bit better. It's a little bit tamer here, but I've noticed, especially as a car driver, that it does not feel friendly towards non-car users at all. It's big enough that I sometimes wonder what's the smallest roundabout you could put in there, because there's so much space there, you might as well put a little roundabout in there.
Yeah.
And when an intersection is so big that you think about putting a roundabout there, maybe it's too big.
Well, just some history on that. So Second and Patterson there,
Mhm.
Second Street was supposed to be all 4 lanes. It's supposed to be 4 lanes, and so they built the intersection
elusive
based on that.
east-west highway across the
Yeah,
city.
so it was they built the intersection to the 4-lane standard, and then they scrapped the idea of the 4-lane section, which was from Rogers out to, I-69 now. So that's why it's so big and it feels uncomfortable because
It's funny because I've had conversations with city engineering about the 2nd Street improvement project, which is coming up this summer.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think it's basically underway right now, the utility relocations and so forth. And I was hoping that the 2nd Street and Rogers intersection would be redesigned as part of that. And I was told that, no, it's fine. So maybe we can do something in the scope of this project, I don't know.
Effectively, this corridor is a legacy corridor of industry. The first color television and the last color television in America were manufactured on this corridor. And we haven't really, some industry has stayed here, but it's not as industrial as it used to be. We have Switchyard Park on it now. So there's a lot more non-industrial urban amenities developing to residential. It's no longer exclusively an industrial corridor. The roads don't reflect that. Again, this intersection is my favorite example of how, what message is this intersection trying to convey? And it conveys, I'm going to the RCA plant to, build a TV set, or I'm going to Cook Pharmaca or wherever. It doesn't say, oh yeah, you should walk your dog here, or ride your bike here. So, if we did a snow test, will we see how much of the intersection is actually being used? Can we neck it down so that it's, you know, does it need to be that big anymore? So I'm gonna put a big there.
Next down.
Neck down test.
We
Got
touched
snack
on
down
this.
pictures.
We touched on this earlier, but back to the bridge across the CSX rail. You know, I think that's another case where it's a bit of a transition point. You know, there's a little bit of a different feeling between the Maple Heights neighborhood and then you come down into downtown. But it's also a funnel. You know, everything's got to use that bridge right there to cross over. The next crossing to the east isn't all the way until College. And then to the west, it's all the way over at Fairview, and then
And there's the trestle in those tracks.
yeah. So, you know, I think there's a real opportunity there to improve the experience. I think for everybody on that. It's actually Madison Street, right there, because I certainly don't find it pleasant to walk along there.
Do you mean 11th or do you mean 17th?
The bridge over the CSX track, so that's between 11th and 13th Street or whatever. I hope that gets some attention too. The county owns that bridge, as we established at the last meeting, though, so that's something that the city would have to work with the county on, I guess.
Are you concerned about the height of the bridge? The bridge sort of like jumping over
Well,
rather than going through a
I mean,
neighborhood?
Steve, there's no separation from the sidewalk and traffic. There's a bike lane going one direction and a Sharrow going the other. Yeah, I don't find it particularly, pleasant in any respect to use that bridge. It is kind of what it is, and it was probably designed in the 80s, so.
And it was designed before Smallwood, and that was the place to see downtown Bloomington. Driving over that bridge, what tiny skyline Bloomington had, you saw it from there until one big building got built and blocked it. That's all I remember about that bridge. Any other thoughts from commissioners, since we're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks?
Well, one thing you showed last meeting was the, I don't know, typical cross sections or whatever the sections for each segment of the project. That might be good to have some discussion on that.
The districts, the contact zones you're talking about, like.
Yeah, I think there were 4 of them.
Let's find them. These ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These ones? Okay.
And then there was actually, you had diagrams of what you thought, like 4 would be bike path on one side.
We didn't propose typical cross sections yet.
So you had some there were some pictures of something in there.
We had an example of other cross sections from other projects to say we would
Oh,
do.
okay.
That's after this week. That's what we'll do. We'll start like sketching those ideas during this week. We haven't come up with those yet. But if you have an idea,
Well,
taking all ideas.
Oh, sorry. Well, I just think it's gonna have to fit the neighborhood that's in there, or whatever, so.
Yeah.
Anybody have any thoughts about this intersection, the Sunoco? This is Rockport?
Is it Rockport?
Rockport and Rogers.
This unusual?
How did it happen that way? I mean,
Rockport goes diagonally, I don't know. What?
where did, I mean, it just seems I think when I don't use it often, it seems like a really good way for people that are leaving town to go out to Rockport. Kind of no reason to slow down, just whip slight right. But if you're turning left out of there, it's pretty high stress, I think. If you're turning left going north on Rogers, there's a lot of things going on.
When I'm driving on Rockport, I'm always afraid someone's gonna pull out right there, or if I'm going north on Rogers.
And yet it's better than it used to be. Like, there was an improvement made not too long ago.
Oh, really?
I mean, relatively recently, it's been a few years, but it used to be even more confusing. It wasn't a well-designed intersection at all. I think partly because of the design of the gas station too, like it was all kind of decrepit, but that's why I wanted to bring it up. Does anybody have any thoughts about the importance of this intersection
You guys should talk to the people that live in the Broadview neighborhood, because they all have to use, they go through there all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is there any non-intersection that people can think of anywhere along this corridor that really ought to get the attention of designers? Non-intersection, somewhere here that is distracting, or a place where people try to cross anyway, or
When I don't drive on Rogers often, but when I leave my office to go, I go to the dermatology center, which I feel like I go to way more often than I should. But I always find it like when I drive. So I'll leave, go down 4th Street, take a left on Rogers, or 3rd Street and take a left on Rogers. I think you climb up that hill. Is that what's the name of that? Is that
Prospect Hill.
Bittaker? Prospect Hill. I feel like it's the trees and the cars. And there's a boat that's been parked there the entire time I've lived in this town. It just feels closed in a way that makes me feel like, is somebody gonna jump out or walk out in front of me? It just seems high stress driving. I mean, and then you get in an open, as someone else has said, you drive down, if you drive this whole corridor, you go from, it's like walking through an amusement park. It's like, this is the neighborhood section, this is the warehouse section. But it seems really, because of the topography and the trees, and the trees are kind of, if you look at Google Earth, it even like, or Google Street View, the trees seem to be crowded down into the street.
should there be some kind of a signal to drivers saying this is a place to slow down because people might pop out?
Well, I say all that, and then it's not like I don't feel like I see a lot of people walking around that. It just seems like it's hard. The visibility is limited. Maybe sometimes it's a little faster there, although I mean it.
It's tight. It
Because
feels tight.
I'm a subscriber to the notion that jaywalking makes streets safer. So I don't have a problem with it being, if you're afraid that people might walk out, it means you drive slower.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we have that and the deer to thank for it. I mean, they're everywhere and they don't pay attention to our rules. So, but do you think that there needs to be some kind of motorist design language that says you need to slow down here?
I don't know if I have thought about it enough. I think it's dark at night there.
Yeah, it is dark.
Which you feel better. I don't want it to feel better so I can go faster. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to. I don't know I'm not an expert like you guys, so that's why you guys get paid big bucks. But it just is an odd place. I always have found it to be a sensory overload area to drive through.
That's a good example. Anybody else got a thought like that anywhere along this corridor?
Similarly to that, in that same vicinity, I have noticed that going south on Rogers, drivers who want to turn left onto 2nd Street will sometimes just go past the queue of traffic in order to get into the left-hand turn lane.
Wait, they're on 2nd or they're on Rogers?
On Rogers, going
Okay,
south on
left.
Rogers,
Okay.
turning left
Right.
on 2nd Street, so to go east. They'll just go the wrong way on the road, right? The wrong side of the road, briefly to get to the turn lane. So if you want to talk about hardened turn
Yeah.
lanes, hardened center lines, right? That's probably a good occasion to add one there.
Is it a protected left turn, do you know? Like, is there a left turn signal there?
Yeah.
Is it a leading left turn? Like it comes
It's a
No.
leading left
Is
turn.
it?
like a
Yeah.
beginning. Some people are trying to get there at the beginning of the cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Plus it's a little short stack too in there, and that's pretty short.
It's short second. I don't remember it being leading. I thought it went at the same time as the.
Okay.
It
so
might be,
it's
I don't
split.
know. I don't
Split
know.
phase. Okay. No, I'm just curious.
Although that intersection too fits the same description as Grimes. I mean, 2nd and Rogers is been a blight for a long, just a big godforsaken mass of concrete, even into the adjoining private properties, especially on the south side of 2nd Street.
Steve, I think you brought up earlier about the 17th and is it Madison, I guess, intersection. I use I go to the dry cleaner there.
Yeah.
And I agree with everything you said about it, and then also the way those businesses, both the dry cleaner and the Marathon, I think it's Marathon, have like just basically wide open access to their parking lots.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of ways that someone could, as a cyclist or pedestrian, there's just lots of, you've got to be head on a swivel the entire time up there.
Does staff have success in persuading property owners to close off certain, like who are on corners, to close off certain access points when they have?
I would say overall mixed success. I am not the point person in those discussions, so I don't want to speculate on how those go. But I do know that there are a number of projects that we work on, and this is especially prevalent with gas stations, where they need space for their big tankers to come in and drop off the gas. But as we know, wider curb cuts, more curb cuts cause more conflict points, and so hitting that happy medium can be tough sometimes, I will say.
So, but back to your point.
It's just, and I'm not I mean, I'm sure that they don't want to reduce that, but it just is a lot going on there, and it would be a good place to get a good design would be a nice, it'd work well there. And I will say, everybody's been on this bridge, and I'm not in favor of this bridge, but it seems pretty, on Google Street View, I mean, there's a lot of space on that. I mean, it seems like you could do something, like if that car, I know it's a small car, but it's got plenty of room in the lane, there's a big sidewalk on both sides. So it seems like it could be better without redoing the whole thing.
I think that's not only Aoban's point, it's kind of the point of this whole exercise, is to improve, at least make a plan for a corridor that would include an improvement like that, taking advantage of that space.
I have a question for the group. We've been focusing on, and rightly so, we've been focusing on areas that could use or need some improvement. Are there any areas of the corridor that are archetypes or examples to look off of as we want to do more of that? I know, Brian, you asked a question about intersections in general, but are there any sections of the corridor where you feel comfortable, you feel safe, you feel like you want to be there and stay there? And if not, that's okay.
Simple answer, no.
Yeah, no.
On Rogers?
No.
Not really.
Okay.
It's never been that kind of street. It was always the edge of town or the wrong side of town for centuries, and now it's the middle of town.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make it like that. So, no. I just got gripes.
What about the Beeline Trail crossing?
Even that's not great. It's at an angle.
Yeah.
The Beeline
Yeah.
Trail is at what, 8th or 9th, something like that?
Yeah.
Can you pull it up
Sure.
on Google Maps?
Between, 8th and 10th Street.
And I know that they
Yeah.
tried to sort of, straighten it to go across at a better angle, but there's also a little bit of elevation change, and it gives everyone pause, except maybe drivers. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, this is not say high comfort to me. This is, look at that.
It's funny because like this ticks a lot of boxes on paper, right? I mean, there's signs, there's the trail, it's a raised crossing, there's a bump out on the east side of the intersection. But I agree with Steve. It's not effective.
Yeah, I think if you're traveling north, then you've got on the east side, it's somewhat of a blind spot, and if you're traveling south, then you've got it on the west side. Because I've used that quite a bit, and cyclists will be just seems like it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, that's the trail here, isn't it?
So
It's coming out here and then it turns like that?
No, that is going the other way.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly. So
This is the trail? or-
Yeah.
that, and then just below, I'll scroll down, but just below, that's when it cuts back into the angled beeline.
Yeah.
It's the other side, they're kind of hidden till they
Yeah,
pop right
right.
after you.
Right.
So here's where the beeline comes out, then you join with the sidewalk, then you have that 90-degree.
This is part of the problem. The sidewalk is not a side path, so it's kind of narrow. So bicyclists are a little hesitant to go at speed on it. Maybe you're not, I'm not a fan.
Go back to the other view. Can you go back to the other view?
Yeah, sure.
What's happened with was it BIM?
Oh yeah, so this,
gonna say Fells Iron Metal, but it
Yeah.
needs to be too much, but.
So this is a new multifamily development. I don't know the exact details, but call it about 100 units or so. And that's going through the planning review process right now, but that, I think, should be built in the next year or so. Let's
I mean,
see.
can you alter the path and square it up to the road?
So
Can
I
it be
think
a better
that's
crossing?
what this crossing attempts to do. I'm not saying that they did it right, but this is what it attempts to do.
Yeah, but you don't see any, you see the blocks of stone there, you don't see anybody till they get to the block of stone.
Mhm.
Are you suggesting have it come south where it's now the driveway?
Come towards the sign, the BIM sign, and then square back up, kinda just hook it around.
So there would be more visibility before the intersection?
Yeah.
I think that would be an improvement if it works for the new apartment.
Either way, this is our premier, non-automotive path. The first one, the biggest one, the one we were proudest of. And this intersection, yeah, is kind of dumpy. I don't know, it's just not, it doesn't say high comfort. It doesn't say we're proud of this. It says we're accommodating it, but we'd really rather not.
Some of that's got to do, I think, with the immediate surrounding context, but yeah, I agree with you, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to add on that what you said. You mentioned like it ticks all the boxes of design, right? But this is just one raised crossing, and there's no other ones anywhere else on the corridor. And so sometimes if you want traffic controlling devices to work effectively, you need to have multiple in succession along a street, so people start getting used to, oh, there's traffic calming here, and they slow down more systematically, as opposed to this is just like you're surprised with a raised crosswalk, and there's no other raised crosswalks anywhere else on the
But
corridor.
there is one. So the Hawk, isn't it a Hawk signal at 4th Street?
No.
That's a rapid flashing beacon, and it's not a raised crosswalk. You
But
do have to go
it's
to.
the only other example of a crossing near this that bicyclists and pedestrians are encouraged to use. That has some in mind for that, and it's
Yeah.
also not great.
It's a recent project
Yeah.
too. I mean, that was most recently worked on maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, and it was just it's not it doesn't exactly scream comfort either. There you go.
One thing that's quite difficult for drivers on 4th Street is to turn left onto Rogers. So if they're going east on 4th, they're trying to turn left to go north, or if they're going west on 4th, they're trying to turn left to go south on Rogers. It's difficult. And it's not pleasant to try to cross here either. I remember when this was being redesigned a little bit, I suggested, no, people don't really drive through on 4th Street, They use Kirkwood and 2nd Street and 3rd Street. So why not make 4th Street, a less permeable route for motor traffic and, cut down on the left turns and stuff and make it like a right in, right out. And put an island in the middle, kind of like how, actually I don't know if we have any cases of that along Rogers, but.
Well, Allen, right?
And, nobody, staff didn't like that idea. So
But
here we are
4th
again, 5 years
and-
later, talking about it.
And the Beeline are if there's two places that should be working together,
Oh, yeah.
it's those two intersections.
So this is an example of, I think, a good treatment. This is down in McDowell. This is a little older, I think, maybe 7 or 8 years ago they put this in. I
Who's
think-
Alan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is nice. Allen feels like an actual greenway here.
Is that something you'd like to see more of along the corridor?
Me personally, absolutely. I like these.
Speaking of that, the corner of 3rd and Grant.
3rd and Grant?
3rd and Grant, not on the corridor, close to it, but not on the corridor. It's the only, I hated it when it first got put in. It's a diverter right there, okay? Because I was driving.
It's
and I
not on
couldn't.
the street.
It was the only place that I couldn't turn left, and I was annoyed. And I was a driver. Then I started using it as a cyclist, and it's my new favorite. It's the only intersection between on 3rd Street between College, Walnut, Washington, Lincoln, Dunn, or Indiana that you can cross easily and not at a light. Everything else is either a light or it's one way or it's car friendly. And cars now stop for me when I'm in the middle of that diverter. And if that's what it takes to make 4th Street and the B line easier to cross, I'm a big fan.
Or 6, or how.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this works. It works like a charm. And the fact that cars, like, I'll be in the intersection, and I'll be looking at cars as they're coming this way, and some of them go through, and some of them stop, and I nod the ones that stop, and I say thank you, or I point at the sign for the ones who drive through. It's working. Like, drivers are noticing that, and it at once it respects everybody. That sign, the way it's designed, it even respects drivers. All I have to do is point at the sign. I don't have to shake my head, or I just like. And the driver stops. At least they know they have the instruction what they're supposed to do. They just have to pay attention to it. So more like this. If there's one thing that's working in the city, it's not on the corridor, but it would work on this corridor.
Couldn't agree more, Steve.
Hey, can I add a question?
Yeah, of course.
So since you guys are talking about diverters like this, what are your thoughts about doing diverters where people just can't even drive north-south all the way?
That's what
they
this
can go
is?
north. No, like imagine that this is Rogers going east-west.
Okay.
So Rogers is north-south. What if you were to put diverters periodically along it so that you can't use Rogers as a cut-through route from north all the way to south?
You mean actually block Rogers from being?
Yeah. Like at a certain point, you have to turn right to go off. But you can use it for like 5 blocks, 6 blocks.
It's a good question. I guess the question would be where? Where would that most be necessary on this corridor?
It could be at the borders of the contact zones that we talked about.
The contact zones.
Where do you look those up again?
Different colors.
At the changes of the use in the context of the corridor, how people are using them. It could be, I'm just.
I'll tell you the first place that comes up then is 11th Street. At 11th Street, there might be a case for diversion. I'm not sure. That's a changing of context, or maybe it's somewhere, maybe north of that. I mean, that bridge was built to make it a thoroughfare. So I guess it depends on. I mean, don't buses go up? That I don't know. Okay, you don't have it. So 2 is 11 to 17.
I also have to talk about emergency vehicles, ambulance, fire trucks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the case for that refuge island, but you can design them so the wheels can track through where those cut-throughs are, so they can cut over them.
Section 4, I don't think of as in need of that, but maybe Section 2.
Would you like an example of what that looks like?
No, it's I'm trying to imagine what you would divert from or to, like who's being diverted. Like I said, on 3rd and Grant, that diverter is perfect. It provides that key function for people who are not in a car. But I'm not sure what the destinations are up there. Maybe near the B line, maybe 4th Street. Does Rogers have to go through? Maybe that's the solution to the 2 intersections that Eoban and I were just talking about. I don't know. Of course, the minute you divert, you have to ask where you're diverting them to.
Right.
Prospect Hill, the near west side, are very sensitive about having traffic diverted into them. So I'd be cautious about that. I wouldn't blame them either. Who wants traffic?
What about like at 3rd and Rogers?
Again, who are we diverting? Who do we want to divert?
3rd Street.
3rd and Rogers is an interesting example, isn't it? Because Third Street is 4 lanes on to the east of
It
Rogers.
begins 4 lanes there.
Yeah, and then it's 2 lanes into the Prospect Hill neighborhood.
And they
Divert
flooded.
them over to College or Walnut?
Well, if you were coming down Third Street, you're westbound, you'd have to go either right.
Yeah, literally Prospect Hill is a giant diverter. Like they
Yeah.
built their neighborhood to be a divert. They did not want traffic going through there. I have the horror stories to tell you about just how badly they did not want traffic.
But it would keep that traffic from not going all the way through.
I mean, my guess. And that's kind of already functions that way.
Yeah.
But you're saying a diverter so people can, like, that's a break point at Third. So if you're going northbound on Third, you would have to turn right on Third. And if you're going southbound, you'd also have to turn on Third. Like you can't go through at Third. Is that what you're proposing?
My thought was if you're going, well, you'd be going westbound on Third. and
Oh,
Get to
gotcha.
Rogers and you'd have to go right.
Gotcha.
The thing is, if you're going south on Rogers from Kirkwood, from Fourth, you get past Third, your next opportunity to turn westbound is Second Street. You're driving past the entirety of Prospect Hill neighborhood. There's no other practical way to get people, again, the entirety of the neighborhood is designed to prevent cut-through traffic. Remember the chicanes on West Third Street? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So if we were to divert people away from going south on Rogers, south of Third Street, I think that would raise some objections. Does that make sense? I'm not sure what else you divert.
Yeah, I was thinking more or less just divert them off of Third Street onto Rogers Street, not diverting Rogers Street.
Oh yeah, that already does that. Don't you think?
Well, I was thinking if you want a crossing, a good crossing there for bikes and pedestrians, I don't know how.
So you're,
Oh, I see.
you're talking about the western leg of this intersection here then.
Right, yeah.
So, and this is, I think, what Steve's talking about, where naturally, if the through traffic, if you're wanting to get through the city to the west and get out of there, you have to either go north on Rogers to Kirkwood or go south on Rogers to Second and get out of there. Whereas if you go through Prospect Hill, that's where you have to jog on over through these small neighborhood streets, and then you have the slalom here that you have to get
Yeah.
Oh,
through.
yeah, I know.
I think 4th Street, you identified 4th Street as like the practical bike route. So I would say maybe there would be more useful.
What if you, what if you block, I'm not saying it's a good idea or bad idea, but I'm just, if you block Rogers Street off at Third Street. So if you're coming if you're coming south on Rogers into town, you're gonna have to turn onto Third Street. You can't continue all the way to Country Club. And vice versa, if you're coming north, you have to go over to the main thoroughfare to get out of town. It would change the nature of the road completely.
Yeah.
Now,
It's an idea.
yeah, I mean, it violates one of our goals, which was to make it connective and
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever that was, but
Yeah.
It could connect other people instead of just connecting drivers. Like if you do that, it would help it to be a better place for people to walk,
Yeah.
bike, connect it for them.
It's just that we're going to create, let's say we were to block Rogers from through car traffic from 3rd to 2nd Street. That's going to force people driving eastbound to Madison and College. And if they're trying to get westbound, they're either going to cut through the neighborhood, because even as slow as it is, it's still faster than going down and around and all the way around to get to 2nd Street via Madison or College, and it's going to create car traffic there. I can see that backfiring from a motorist privilege perspective, if you know what I mean.
Steve, I kind of lost you at the end there. Could you restate what you just said?
If you block cars going southbound on Rogers from 3rd,
Mm-hmm.
and people who are driving want to get west, but they're already headed that way. They're headed south, and they need to get west. They're going to turn east at 3rd Street. They're going to be forced to go to Madison or to College. And they're going to turn and get to 2nd Street and then head west. And they're going to be irritated. if they know that that pattern is set up, they might start cutting through Prospect Hill anyway, despite the one-way streets, the narrow streets, the chicanes, everything that they've done to discourage car traffic through that neighborhood. I mean, there's been the fight between, we want an east-west highway across town, and this neighborhood is a historic neighborhood, we don't want cars going through it. That's been my entire political history in Bloomington, 25 some years now, just
Yeah.
accustomed to that.
I think that any consideration in, diverting traffic and that kind of thing, I don't think we should categorically, rule it out in any
Agreed.
particular circumstance, but I do think that it would be helpful to consider it in the context of a neighborhood traffic management plan, right? Where a variety of different types of journeys and different directions are being considered in a kind of more holistic way. I'm sure we could talk all night about little scenarios like this, but the way that neighborhoods of great cities solve this kind of thing is approaching it from a more holistic way and diverting traffic where you can, and where there are straightforward alternatives, I think.
What's the safety profile of Rogers between 3rd and 2nd? Are there a lot of crashes there?
Yeah, I can pull it up.
Also, we've been at it for hour and a half almost. Is there a time limit on this?
There is not technically a time limit. Whenever you are
I just
comfortable
wanted
with speeding.
to see what's the room's mood. While they're looking that data up, any other thoughts?
Well, I just want to say, I wasn't talking about diverting Rogers Street itself, because then you're gonna push more traffic to College and Walnut.
That was my point.
Yeah, but I was thinking of, maybe it's 4th Street, like an example like you gave on 3rd Street, maybe the diverter is for the traffic going east-west on 4th Street
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
a crossing somewhere.
That's-
Or maybe look at different points throughout the different segments.
Yeah, that's sort of my general point. The cost of diverting traffic from anywhere from 3rd and Rogers is, just from a public relations standpoint, would be
Oh, yeah.
a challenge. What are these, I mean, I'm already seeing all the people the motorists who can't understand why we would accommodate bikes at all, because we never see any bicyclists on the road. So what a waste.
Gas is solving that.
I think you underestimate the bottomless desire of trolls to troll. Anyway, any data on, crash data on between 3rd and 2nd on Rogers?
On 3rd, in the last 10 years that we looked, there was no serious injury crashes. At
Mhm.
2nd, there were 2 in the last 10 years.
Okay.
So at a high level.
I mean, does that make it harder to argue for diversion of cars? Because it's not strictly safety related, it sounds
Sure.
like.
So I would also talk about, just going back a step, when we talk about making a street safer, one aspect of it is looking at the past crash history. What are the fatal and severe injury crashes that have already happened? And also look at the risk of future fatal and severe injury crashes. When we look at the intersection of 3rd and Rogers, even though nothing has occurred there in the last 10 years, that is not to say it won't occur in future years. So when we look at the profile, it being 5 lanes at 3rd Street, long crossings, that has the profile of being a risky intersection. You could absolutely sell it based on safety.
Okay, well, this is new to me, and that's saying a lot. The idea that somehow there's a way of quantifying the risk profile of an intersection that not based on crash data.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some formula that you use to say this intersection is a textbook unsafe intersection?
So I would, and I don't want to pull up the whole formula right now, but I would point you to Bloomington's Safe Streets for All action plan that incorporates, so the high priority network incorporates a number of things, one of the factors being risk. And Drew, you might actually be able to talk about it better than I can.
Yeah, I mean, well, what Hank is talking about is systemic safety, which is more forward-looking, versus crash data, which is backwards
Okay,
looking.
yeah.
So
Just briefly give us a sense of how you do that.
yeah, so what Hank is talking about is like if a street has a higher speed, it has more lanes, larger intersections, no separation between users, no separation in time or in space, those kinds of things, then we might say that has a higher risk profile than another street that does have all those things, if that makes sense.
Am I the only commissioner who would like to see more about how they do that? Because I'd love to see the details of how you,
The Safe Streets for All plan has a whole chapter on it.
but is it a chapter or is it like, do you have a formula that you use?
I believe the
Yes.
formula's in there.
Yeah, it is in there. But I would say that there's multiple different methods.
I'm gonna go do my homework.
Yeah, there's something called like a facility profile analysis. What we did is more of like systemic safety, and it was based on our best judgment of things that we think are risk factors.
So you've already scored some intersections this way?
Intersections
Yes.
and all the
Corridors.
streets.
Do you have a
in
list?
Bloomington. Yeah, it's in the
Yes.
plan, yeah.
Is it in the plan?
Yes.
Mhm.
Am I an idiot? I'm an idiot.
You are not an idiot.
I'm an idiot.
I would look through the plan. There are corridors and intersections that are rated based on purely the past crash history data. The crash history, that's the high injury network. Then we have the high risk network, which is essentially forward looking. And then we combine all that together plus the public comment, the public input that we received during Safety Week, and that is the high priority network,
Okay.
the comprehensive network.
Okay. I'll just come and get remedial lessons from you after this.
Steve, and to any commissioner that wasn't at the first meeting, if you have time, go and watch the recording, or parts of the
Okay.
recording, because we talked about a lot of these things last time also, so.
My apologies.
That's why I'm
I was
chuckling.
I was not here, and I'm very sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
To waste everybody's time. Are there any other last-minute comments on this corridor? Or general comments?
Got a quick question, Wally, the tool design here. We talked about roundabouts a bit ago. Just taking like a temperature check on you guys or the general public, how much they like roundabouts, dislike them. Is a mini roundabout something you've seen that could be maybe retrofitted, whether that's for access management, especially if we're talking about some diverters, or just as traffic calming devices or gateway almost treatments to a corridor?
Commissioners, I asked you to answer this question.
I actually suggested a mini roundabout for 4th and Rogers maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and nobody.
Where is a mini roundabout currently just compared to?
Like,
Did you
say,
say Curry?
This is the director of the bus system asking.
what about Renwick, over there, Renwick and on Morris Pike?
Well, is it
That's
just
a-
single lane? Is that what we're talking about?
I don't think so.
A mini roundabout's usually smaller, and the island in the middle is fully traversable. So
Okay.
bigger cars, buses,
I
fire
got you.
trucks, they
I
drive
got you.
straight through.
It's more like a
Just trying to make
neighborhood,
you feel
but
bad.
not a neighborhood traffic circle, but somewhere between neighborhood traffic circle and a conventional circle.
When I served on the Bike Pedestrian Safety Commission, there was a blind woman who was on it, and she highlighted that they're difficult for blind folks to cross because the traffic doesn't come to a complete stop. Otherwise, I'm aware there are a lot of benefits.
And our representative from the Council for Community Accessibility is not here today to give us that kind of feedback, but I think you've heard sort of a cross-section there. I've asked about why I do love mini roundabouts as long as they don't encourage cars to go fast. I don't want us to become Carmel. With all due respect, I think that's a whole different kind of city that I don't think is.
I don't know if there are any what you would really call mini roundabouts in Carmel. Carmel builds huge roundabouts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the roundabouts the tool's talking about are very small.
Well, there are tiny ones in the near west side, like you can't drive over them, but they're really small.
Yeah, that scale.
Are they on,
Is
like-
that the kind of thing you're?
Is it like a local street
Yeah, it's
intersection?
local.
So that's a neighborhood traffic circle, which is a little bit different than what Wally just talked about.
Yeah, okay.
But similar scale.
But yours are ones where you could drive over it, there's nothing in the middle.
It's usually mountable, so there still is somewhat of a mound. It's either papers or concrete in the middle. So drivers are still discouraged from going through, so they're still going around, they're still slowing down. But fire trucks, they can mount. They go straight.
Okay.
Especially for left turns, they're not going around, they're just making.
No objections. In fact, I can name 3 or 4 intersections around the city that I wonder why are these so fat? If we're going to leave them this fat, why don't we make them into a roundabout? Otherwise, let's neck them down. So, yeah, I think consider them
you
acceptable.
mentioned taking the temperature. I think my view is the community is okay with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've gotten over the first few.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, they expect them here and there and know how to drive through them.
Yeah.
I'm from Terre Haute and they put one in when I was a kid and they tore it out about 3 years later. We couldn't figure it out. They've since put it back recently.
Some things take time.
Yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't, but who knows?
Okay, let's talk about next steps. So, was this helpful?
Yes.
All right.
Very.
What next? What's our next?
So what next? Steering committee is, I would say, on pause for now. Internally, we need to start taking your comments, putting pen to paper, drawing things up based on what you said, based on what the public's already said. We've gotten about 80 survey respondents as of today. I'm sure we'll have a lot more comments at the public meetings come this week. So we are going to be doing a lot of work, taking what you said, putting it on paper. After that, we will regroup internally and then come back to you with next steps as of, what is the role for the next meeting? How do we then narrow the focus towards a final corridor study?
What is the next meeting going to? I still don't have an answer to what's our next meeting going to
Sure.
be like? What are we going to talk about at the next meeting?
I think in the next meeting, we'll have some typical sections, cross-sections, and concepts that we've drawn up during this week and iterated on to show you and say, this is everything that we heard.
You're going to do some actual design.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like sketch level concept design and say, is this solving the issues that you've described to us and that we've heard from the public? So that's the goal, is like we're going to compile all the information, say we think these are the issues, and here's a start at solutions.
And this will be in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years?
May, likely.
Okay,
The
couple
Transportation
months.
Commission, the next commission meeting, yeah, May is what we have.
Well, we'll schedule another, what we call planning session.
Yeah,
Like this one.
right.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, shooting for May.
all right. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, thank you everyone for being here. Our next meeting is our regular, we don't even have our regular staff here, but I assume it's our next regular meeting in April?
You have your regular meeting
Next
March
week?
30th at
That's what I was
5:30 p.m.
That's what I was afraid of. All right, our next meeting is at 5:30 next Monday, I assume in Chambers.
Yes.
Great. This meeting is adjourned.